I'd like to welcome everyone to Committee of the Whole for Monday, November 1st of 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Confirmation of agenda. There's anything more to add to tonight's agenda?
I'd like to add Mayor Fleet under staff
Reports?
Okay, we'll do that first then.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Anything from council? Seeing none, any disclosure or pecuniary interest and general nature thereof this evening? Seeing none, the adoption of minutes of October 18th Committee of the Whole meeting, please.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mellon, that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole held on October 18th, 2021 of its 7th Council of the Municipality of South Dundas be adopted as circulated.
Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Okay, going to staff reports, and we'll do the addition first. Fleet, please. I assume Jeff takes the floor for this. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So in front of you, I have two photos. We'll refer to those when we get to that point. We have two pieces of machinery which have some repairs that are needed, and I guess what we're looking for is direction from council on how they would like to proceed with the repairs, whether we make it a 2021 repair or if we push it off to 2022. So the first repair is on our Unit 91, which is our grader, our Volvo grader. We're having problems with one of the computers in the grader. It'll just throw the machine into neutral while it's working on the roadway. So we had Strongco in to investigate the problem, and they detected a malfunctioning computer and a damaged connector that inserts into the computer. The cost of the repair, they have it broken down for a quotation for us, being the computer itself, the ECU unit being $5,500, the harness being $3,700, and a housing connector being $70. So the overall grand total with travel time and taxes is $12,500 for the grader. So right now the grader would be out grading gravel roads, keeping the potholes to a minimum, and then we utilize the grader in the wintertime to aid with snow removal. So I can't foresee that being a big concern right as of now. So that's problem number one with the grader. I can answer any questions which you may have at this time about the grader.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. We'll add them together, please.
Okay, so number two, you'll see from the diagrams, the picture with the shovel on it, that is the main swing bearing that is right in between the frame and the actual excavator itself. The second photo is a cutout of the bearing itself, so there's little ball bearings in the middle of it. So right as of now, when we're out using that machine, it's ultimately metal on that swing bearing. So we're kind of restricted on what we can do right now. Strongco came and investigated the unit, and in order to get a true cost of what it's going to take to fix that bearing, they need to split the unit in half. So they've done 10 of these right as of now, Strongco has in Ottawa, and they've ranged from $28,000 to $40,000, depending on the severity of the bearing, on how bad it is, and what else is wrong once they get it tore apart. We did receive confirmation from Strongco that it was not an operator error or a lack of maintenance. That machine is greased regularly before it goes out, so there was plenty of grease in that bearing. I can't answer why it happened, but it is a bearing and it's a moving part. So right now, repair time is if it goes in the third week in November, we will not receive that unit back until the tail end of December as we speak right now. That machine would be out brushing and finalizing our ditching program. So we are kind of caught up with our ditches as I speak right today. So that machine would be out working steadily, brushing. So again, I'm looking for a direction from council on how we would like to proceed with these two repairs. and then I can bring back a report with better numbers once, once that machine is split and true numbers can be achieved, I would come back with a report to let council know. So I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I'll make a comment on the grader to start. It sounds similar to an issue we have with our current combine where an ECM connection is the problem. And it's actually a little ground pin that causes all the problems. It's cured technically right now, but I can understand where that's coming from and how these silly things happen. I'll be honest, I'm more leaning to get that grader going than I am the excavator, but I'll see where council goes from here. Council Wells, are you prepared to go, or I'll go the other way?
I just gotta get this.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Actually, Mayor, I'm of the same thing. I think we can tackle the grader. I just so Jeff, what would be your backup plan if we decided not to fix the big one right now? Do you have a idea for a backup plan, or?
Well, right now, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Right now, the only thing that grader would be doing is out brushing. So we just wouldn't, or the shovel, sorry, the
Okay.
excavator.
Yeah.
So we just wouldn't be brushing.
Okay.
So other than that, it's still regular operations as usual. We have a backhoe, so if we have any small pipes, culverts that we need to change, we could still do with the backhoe.
Okay.
It's just the brushing will be put on hold until we get the machine back.
So the company said that you mentioned it wasn't operator error, it wasn't whatever, it's greased regularly. So is this what we can expect? Is that bearing a part that's going to go on a regular basis with that machine?
I can't say yes and I can't say no, but it's the main piece that spins steadily. So it gets the most use out of anywhere on that machine.
Okay.
Is it a common occurrence? We've had it now, it's a 2018, so we've had it 3 years and we haven't had it.
How many hours?
We're up around close to 2,000 hours on it,
2,000 hours?
so.
Okay.
But they have, like I said, they have done 10 similar jobs this year.
But that worries me because it sounds like a flaw. If there's, I mean, did they say it's commonplace? Like, is it just like are the 10 jobs that they? I don't know how much you got into the weeds with them, but you know, is it? I'm just thinking 28,000 to 40,000 is fine, I guess, if it's a every 10-year replacement cost. If this is a flaw in this machine and it's like every couple of years or every 2,000 hours, that's going to be somewhat problematic. So those are my only comments, and just, you know, if it's some things do go, you can expect it every so many hours, but that's a pretty big price tag for every 2,000 hours. It's 40 grand.
I can follow up and get back to you on with the dealer.
Yeah.
And ask, you know, is this a common occurrence? And like I said, I can get back to you.
It just to be interesting, because if it's a flaw in the way that they're doing, or this madeinchina.com thing scenario, then maybe it's materials. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Council Lewis?
I don't think we have much of a choice with the grader. I would go ahead and get it fixed ASAP. The rubber tire hi-ho, I think I would budget that for 2022. As you say, all it's doing right now is brush work. So we have to put the brush work on hold. That's not a big deal. I know 2,000 hours doesn't sound like a lot, but you get it swinging back and forth for 2,000 hours. That machine's doing an awful lot of work, and I don't think, you know, I think the machine has done a lot of work for the 2,000 hours, because I've seen it in operation. But I would go ahead with the grader, and myself personally, I would put the rubber tire hi-ho on 2022 budget.
Council Mellon?
Yes, on the grader, we need it for this fall and, well, winter too. Unfortunately, on that bearing, somewhat like Deputy Mayor Gardner, you know, if it's, will they give us any type of warranty on that bearing if they replace it, if it's replaced by the dealer?
Oh, yes.
What would the warranty be?
I'd have to follow up with you.
Yeah, I think we need to, you know, if it's, you know, shit happens. I just got a tractor back on its feet after 3 weeks. I wasn't really expecting that, but anyways, my own personal opinion is, why wait till 2022? Yeah, it's gonna cost us, you know, 28 to 40,000. I would much sooner us go ahead and get it fixed. The question I guess we ask is either we're gonna fix it, we're gonna get rid of it, or we're gonna trade it. If we're gonna fix it, why not go ahead and fix it and allocate the money from 2022 budget right now? If we wait till 2022 budget, we do budget in what, January or whenever it's scheduled. You know, this thing won't be back till the end of December if we send it out tomorrow. You know, I can't imagine parts getting any cheaper, and the supply chain is just a mess. So my opinion is fix the grader now, get it way, and I would fix the rubber tire excavator with an allocation, because I don't know what's left in our fleet. Repair pretty well nothing, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a,
Yeah, it was nowhere near. I wouldn't even touch whatever we have in there. I would just, you know, it's gonna be fixed. If we're gonna fix it, we might as well go ahead and get it fixed. I mean, you know, swallow the pill the end of December and, you know, take it out of operating and reimburse operating out of the budget, and when we do the budget in January. That's my opinion. Mayor Bylaws, instead of waiting until, you know, we get into the new year, you know, February, before we get around to, you know, deciding we're gonna go ahead and fix it, why not? To me, it's broke, fix it.
Council Wells.
the grader definitely, we definitely need that fixed, but with this here municipality bought it brand new. So they're like, it's 3 years old and there's no warranty on the drive or anything like that? Like there should be like a 5-year warranty on the drive and like your motor and,
It had a 1 year, 3,000 hours. That was the warranty that came with it. 1 year or 3,000 hours, whatever expired first. So the year.
yeah,
has
and
expired.
that warranty at the beginning, I would have questioned that to start with the dealership, because you're not gonna put 3,000 hours, it's just a way for them to get out of not doing anything, right? Me, what would it cost to trade it, to go up, just,
I can't tell you that.
yeah. Anyways, like you said, we own it, so we gotta fix it, but it doesn't matter to me, Councilor Mellon said now or for 2022. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, whether we take the money now from Peter and pay him back next year or whatever. I can't, it might be, you might get a better deal in the winter or something, maybe, but stuff like this is just, it is what it is, that's your price. And now, do you go out anywhere else, or is this just from the dealer we bought it from?
Actually, we didn't even buy it from this dealer. This is Stronco, the deal with Volvo and Hyundai. So that's where we bring them in, right? That's who we use.
So does the company we buy from do work on the machines?
Yep. So I can call them also.
Well, yeah, because I definitely I would want more than one price. I wouldn't want, especially I would want the price from the company that we bought it from. You could say like, listen, we only got 2,000 hours on this machine. What are you gonna do for us? Like, and they say, well, it is what it is. Well, maybe next time we'll look elsewhere before we buy from you. Like, play a little strong arm play on them or something, because a machine like that, bearing, like, I don't know if, these machines, you say it's moving all the time, does your stabilizers have to be down all the time? Because because you can swing this without the stabilizers, correct? So if you have a machine that's not stable, that you're getting weight out over, your bearings are gonna be like this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The operator uses all 4 stabilizers every time. He's always got a firm foot on the ground.
but I guess that's where I stand, Mayor, just, we own the machine, we gotta fix it, so whether we do it next year or this year or whatever you wanna do.
Okay.
But the grader for sure, because another month we'll be using that.
Yeah.
We'll be using it now on gravel roads, so.
Okay, so council's good with the grader. What's the timeline on them getting the ECM in, the harness in, getting it all put back together?
That is not on here, but I will definitely follow up with him. It'll be a quick turnaround with the grader. I can't see it being down that long.
Okay. How much did this rubber tired excavator cost us?
197,000? No? Is that it? Three something?
Yeah, it was three,
We're in the high side of
Yeah.
30,000.
yeah.
Two second hearing.
190 be a good backhoe right now.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
missed the one cheaper by a day.
So I do echo some of the concerns of council that the failure of this turntable bearing is premature. And if you say you've been greasing it all the time and the operator's been running it the way it's supposed to be run, that suggests to me that, and if they've done a bunch of them, that means from a manufacturer point of view, there's an issue there. From what I see, is this the original style of bearing that's in there, or is this the replacement bearing that they are suggesting to put in?
No, I believe that's the original bearing. That's the design of it.
Okay, design, but is it made by this, usually OEM do not use Econo bearings, so and I know this is a Hyundai, but is this the exact bearing that's in there, or is it, because this is, you know, this looks like, you know, an off-brand, or okay, some jobber brands are just as good or better than the OEM, but you always have to have some caution when you start going offline, that's for
I
sure.
definitely want to replace it with the brand that is supposed to be in that machine.
Okay. So how much budget is left in the repair budget?
So funny you mentioned that. I've got a report coming to council next week. There's 16,000 and change left in our repairs and maintenance budget, with 2 vehicles left to be safetied and oil sprayed. So
Okay,
that's
so you basically, the grader and a few repairs and you're out of money.
that.
I understand we gotta do it one way or the other, I don't dispute that. Doing it now is not gonna save us any money, it's just gonna sit there and do it. Where, the repair will happen, I assume, in Strongco's shop in Ottawa,
Yes, sir. On
So-
Harbour Road.
so we'll have to float it there,
Yes, we will.
okay? Well, you gotta spend it now or spend it later, but we will have to account for it budget-wise in our next budget. Like, here we go again, we're going to go over this budget, and I understand stuff happens, but this is pretty big stuff. And when you have big stuff, I understand things break. I have the same issues with what I have on the farm, so sometimes delaying it isn't worth the effort. I'm not here saying that we need to fix it. It's not a priority. To me, it's just get it fixed so you have it ready for next year. You determine when it gets fixed. If they backed up in the shop, well, we're in line. The grader, I think, has to be a little bit more priority. We need that machine functioning. For no sense in having a grader that doesn't work. And they all fly by wire, and I understand that. So it's not like you can do without it. So I'm in the camp and just get it fixed, but it don't have to be fixed tomorrow. That's where I would sit it, because there's no, as I said, we don't need to do it anymore. Time you get it back, brushing's done anyway, snow will be flying, so. And worst comes to worst, you do have backhoe, and worst comes to worst, there are still shovels out there that are willing to do some work for us, and probably would not cost us as much as this to fix. Deputy Mayor.
I thought Councillor Wells had a good point in maybe shopping around a bit and maybe going back to the dealer just to see what the comparable price is. I mean, if we're replacing it with the same bearing it already has, that to me sounds like the last bearing is crap. But I would like to see maybe a comparable, just to see, because if there was a, you know, if it's $10,000 or whatever, it's $10,000.
Okay. So who is the dealer that we bought it from?
We bought it from Hyundai Bobcat in Gatineau was the winning bid.
Okay.
That's where we got it from.
I think there's a desire at council that you shop that repair around. We know what it is. You should be able to figure that, you know, have a fairly good estimate on what that price is gonna be. Council good with that? Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, Jeff, you had mentioned before, they didn't know unless they split it. My concern, you know, sitting back and listening to the discussion here is, you know, the bearing's gone, okay. If we get into a situation where the housing, you know, we got 28 to 40,000, that's what the range is. If we get in there and find out that, you know, the housing is cracked, you know, you're gonna get into more expenses, I think we need to know that.
Well, I'll definitely believe it.
Yeah, so if we do it exploratory, they say we take it in there and they tear it apart, we're gonna go ahead and fix it, but, you know, I think we need to know, if there's gonna be, you know, another, you know, anytime you get into something, you know, you start off thinking, you know, it's gonna cost us 28 to 40,000, okay, we can maybe live with that. A little hard pill to swallow, but I mean, if we get into it and then all of a sudden they come back and say, oh, well, by the way, this is, you know, broken, worn, or whatever, then I think we need to reevaluate, you know, the life cycle of that machine. You know, if it's gonna be another 40 on top of 40, you know, then we have to really ponder whether or not, you know, we're gonna continue on with that machine, or, you know, how we're gonna handle that then. And we'll need to know that for budget anyways. That's the only other comment there.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Wells.
Just one last comment. I would just go back to the dealer in Gatineau and just use some strong arm and say, like, this machine's 2,000 hours, 3 years old, guys, what's going on here? Like, I've heard there's like several different machines. I was talking to another company and just say, like, what are you gonna do for us as a customer? Whether it does anything or not, but be just a little aggressive with them.
Okay. So you've heard council's flavor, fix the grader, get this thing started, chop around a bit, and make sure that we're getting a fair shake at how the price is going, and if there's anything further on it, then let us know, and even having a different set of eyes on it, have them comment on why that failure occurred, because sometimes they'll tell you a different reason. Because I look at that, like, it's either two things. It wasn't a failure of the bearing itself that was not machined right or wasn't strong enough, or B, it's operator maintenance. You claim that, not, but sometimes every once in a while things happen. So figure it out, and then we'll go from there.
So do you want that to come back as a KIR or as a report with?
I guess we'll leave it with you. If it's simple, you can KRI and we can pull it if we don't like it. If it's major, then I think council expects something a little bit more of a discussion back, please.
Okay, we'll proceed with the grader.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
So moving on to short-term licensing. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Short-term rentals, also known as Airbnbs, have become 2020 Committee of the Whole, council directed staff to establish zoning and licensing regulations for short-term rentals in South Dundas. Zoning provisions passed on February 22nd, 2021. During the March 29th, 2021 Committee of the Whole, staff presented a licensing portion of the regulations in draft format. At that time, council directed staff to obtain public feedback on the draft licensing bylaw. The public survey provided limited comments, so staff reached out to the owners of existing short-term rentals in South Dundas for their comments and concerns from a business perspective. Staff did receive great feedback from those owners and reviewed their requests, provided updates in the draft licensing bylaw, and have attached it for review by council and discussion. I can answer any questions at this time.
Okay, so the draft bylaw we got today is good, that it's got what in theory the comments from the owners are requesting. I will caution council that if I was a short-term rental owner, I'd like it the bylaw crafted my way, so I don't think we have to craft it their way. We can adjust for sure. But I think there's some provisions that they want removed that I would caution council on taking out. I will say that, might save my comments till after we go around the table. So, Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. So I commend the staff for reaching out. I thought that was fabulous, and I commend the owners of the Airbnbs for giving quite a bit of detail in their concerns. I do agree with some of the comments. I mean, I think the number of people in rooms, I think it's a valid statement that families travel together. They might have a playpen that somebody is sleeping in, or whatever the case may be. So for this, when we started this journey, I wanted it for safety, right? Like the fire code, having an Airbnb that has a fire plan that's easily accessible, that type of thing. I do worry, and I do feel somewhat cautious after another year of sitting around this table. I just don't want to create such a finicky bylaw that we cannot enforce. Either we don't have the staff to do it, or it's just a lot of man hours to do it. And some of the stuff in here seems to me like it would be a lot of man hours to pull. I don't know, Nicole, how many Airbnbs do we have running in South Dundas right now? Do you know off the top?
I believe it's 8.
8. So we've got a fairly hefty bylaw that runs quite a few pages. We're asking the homeowners to jump through hoops for 8 Airbnbs and one major complaint of a potential problem, even though it's transient people that are staying in it. So, you know, when I look through it, whenever we talk about this renter's code of conduct, you know, I feel like a lot of this stuff is duplicated, only because the Airbnb app that most of these people affiliate themselves with, if you go on the app, the owners are rated, so you're not going to go and rent from somebody who's had a lot of complaints, who's done a lot of this. Like the app itself, like when we talk about an Airbnb, that's actually the name of an app that's been created, and now the properties are referred to that. So I don't know, I just, when I read through it, it's I'm not saying it's not well done, it just, to me, seems a little heavy-handed.
Okay.
For
So
8.
I would remind council that Airbnb is not the only site that has these short-term rentals on.
True.
GRBO is the other one.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about like 4 years, like how did we come up with 4 years? Like
Well,
what's the
no,
reason?
the four,
What's the
I
reason?
think
we
that's a
have 4 years?
comment that is fair. I'll say that right now, that 4 years doesn't make sense. It comes out of the challenge that some municipalities have, namely Prince Edward County, where the whole subdivision is short-term
Yep.
rentals, and then all of a sudden, come this time of year, it's a ghost town.
Yep.
And that's what they're trying to avoid with that. Are we there? No, I don't think we need to have that in there. I agree with that.
So that's my concern is you want a thing that will definitely protect our residents, right? Protect the renters of the Airbnb, but the 4 years, the people per bedroom, I think that is somewhat trickier because I've been to Airbnbs where they'll have a bedroom that's got 3 beds in it, right? So we're limiting the families. A lot of folks will rent an Airbnb if they have a wedding going on and the family might all stay together. So you might have family plus extended family, that type of thing. I don't know. I'm those 2 things I think I'd like to see taken out. The 4-year thing, I mean, I don't know. Do we want to protect that with 1 year? Have people established, or is it even necessary?
I don't think we're at that point.
Yeah, because I mean, people change too. You could have somebody who moves to South Dundas, buys a big property with their spouse, and then their spouse dies, and then they decide to do something different. Like 4 years, 4 years is a long time. I don't know. I want it to encourage tourism and protect the residents, but I just, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here that unless we have a lot more staff to do this, I don't know. I could go number by number if you want, but I find it too heavy-handed at this point.
Okay, Nicole, you have any comment on the 2 per bedroom? I see you do have a little thing about building code, stuff like that in the notes.
Yeah, 2 per bedroom is a building code requirement on all renovations. If it's an existing building and they decide to add another kid in with the family, there's nothing that we can do to enforce that. It's just when you're considering safety for the house itself, you have to consider it as 2 persons per room.
Okay, so that's an explanation, rightly or wrongly, so,
Okay. I still think it should be taken out.
okay. We can take it out if we have to, once council goes through. Anything further right now?
I think that's it for now. It's just when I was going through it's a lot, and it's a well done bylaw. I'm not saying that. It's just if we had 5 staff in the bylaw department to enforce this, that's one thing. If we're starting out this discussion just to make sure everyone's safe, I think it's a little heavy-handed.
Okay. We'll just make this small comment before going further. If you think we need more bylaw enforcement for short-term rentals, wait till we get to the next one, which is called
Well,
property standards. Councillor Lewis.
I think the bylaw is excellent, but I had a problem with the 4-year also. As the mayor says, I don't think we're there yet. But that was the only thing that I kind of that come out of it is the 4-year. I don't have an issue with the 2 to a room, and you said that is a bylaw. So no, I honestly I think it's a good bylaw. But the 4 years, I think we can just throw that out now.
Okay. Councillor Wells?
Yeah, there's, it's not bad. It's not, there's, myself, I think there's a lot of, like Deputy Mayor said, it's quite large and stuff. And the things I had written down, it actually has been echoed here, but, the 4-year thing, I would disagree with that. It's too long. Same with 2 people per room, like if adult comes with 2 small children, they're not going to put the 2 kids in another room. So whether they're infants or 1-year-old or 2-year-old, you're still breaking the bylaw. The fees and stuff like that, I would just put like a set fee, as some of the comments came back from the people that responded to this. 1 fee, because I think it'd be a nightmare to go through and you got 1 bedroom, and if someone changed the bedroom into something else or whatever, I think just 1 annual fee would work a lot better. What else was there? Like I said, I didn't really have a lot. Like when we started this journey here, like the main thing like Deputy Mayor said was the safety. You want to make sure the people that are going to these establishments are, everything's up to the code and fire and stuff like that. There's one thing there I read in the bylaw about if, I believe it was, Nicole, if you didn't have an ESA permit prior to I think it was 24 months I read, that you would have to comply with that. But under the ESA, like, I don't know how you would get someone to do that, because like I'm electrical contractor, so if I draw a permit, ESA permit to come here and put an outlet in, that's fine, it's good, it's whatever. But just to have someone from the Electrical Standard Authority come to do a inspection, is not gonna happen. So I think something like that should just be taken out myself. The other, like the fire department, like Cameron, that going there, definitely make sure all the fire alarms and everything else is all up. But other than that, I didn't see anything that stuck out. Maybe a little, it could be shortened a little bit if you notice things there we're kind of doubling up on. But other than that, we want to attract people, but we don't want to make it hard for them to have something like this. So, and I want to thank the public out there, because that was a very good response, like a lot of good feedback on this for us to make decisions on. That's it for me now, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Mallon?
I think we need to make the process as simple as we can and as streamlined as we can for the renters. The 4 years, I think that should be gone. I think we can require, 2 adults and maybe 2 children per room. I don't think, I can see where we want to protect ourselves, if you had a situation where you don't want to have 6 or 8 people in one room. But I have I think, as far as having children in with a family, so I have no problem, confining it or, limiting it to 2 adults and maybe with children on the side, if you will. Some of the comments in there, there was, made the suggestion, that there should be, consideration for rural compared to towns or villages. I don't think so. I think it has to be uniform across the board, make it simpler for everybody. The parking, I think, when they come in, it's just like a hotel. They're going to ask you the license plate of your car, so that's not a big, I think that's just within, some of the comments also in that, in the feedback was, some of them didn't think, it was necessary to have somebody living within an area or close by, and I think it's imperative that we have the owners or the manager, if you will, of one of these things to be within at least 30 minutes. It's not, to me, if the thing isn't run properly, the bylaws that we have, existing bylaws, aren't being followed, and our policies and whatnot, and this licensing and whatnot isn't being followed, it's got to come back on the owner, because we have no recourse, if somebody's in there doing whatever. So I think it's imperative that we have the owners either living there also, or within a very short period of time. If there is an issue, they should be the ones that have to deal with it first. And our bylaw, as far as, rowdiness or whatever, or the police are secondary, to be called in. Same as, probably any hotel you go to, if you're ripping and tearing, management will throw you out. So that's their job. And if I don't want to leave, they call the police and they can escort me out again. But, so I think that, so I think it's imperative that we have something in there that, this isn't, we don't have one of these cropping up in South Dundas and the owners are, 4 hours away, and, then it becomes our problem, and that's not, but the emphasis has to be back on the owner that if they, violate the rules of guess, if you will, you know, that there is consequences for them, which would be termination of their license. You know, maybe a warning once, but you know. What else did I look at here? Yeah, if we can get the, you know, the shorter application and the wording, you know, using existing bylaws, and I think the fee should be the same, you know, across the board, because somebody will come in with one room at start, you know, and then after a year they'll want to add, you know, 1 or 2 more. So it's just, you know, I'd have the fee the same right across the board with the maximum set out at 4. You know, I think that's, you know, I looked at the original agenda we come in, and I got a quick look at this afternoon, but, you know, what number is that? The insurance, which staff has highlighted here with the $2 million per occurrence for property damage. Request for consideration by short-term rental owners. Where are we going with that? What's the, you know, why is that highlighted as a discussion item?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the owners requested that insurance be removed from the bylaw. There aren't any insurance brokers that can provide specific insurance for short-term rentals. It would be their personal insurance for their house.
Okay. But, like, I mean, and I don't care, I mean, it's they're on the line, it's not, there's no way that this can come back on us because we gave them a license, can it? If they haven't got the proper insurance. So if they don't want to have proper insurance, or, you know, adequate insurance, let's say, instead of, I shouldn't say proper, but adequate, you know, I don't know if there's anything else right now, Mayor. I was just scrolling through the highlighted areas that staff have highlighted here in the revised agenda that came in this afternoon. So I don't, you know, other than the points I made already, I don't think, you know, I don't think there's anything else. That renter's code, you know, I don't think, you know, everything I think that's in there that's been highlighted and what it is somewhat workable. It'd be nice if we could, you know, pare it down to make it a little bit, but sometimes you got to have that extra wording in there to make sure that there's some bite to the license, or, you know, the licensing. Otherwise, you know, they can skirt around an issue, or then we'll have to come back and fill the gaps in later. But, you know, there's no reason why we can't, when they're registering, when they arrive, that they're, or be sent ahead of time, you know, a real Reader's Digest version of what is expected of them and how they're expected to act, and, you know, noise and disturbance, or whatever you want to, you know, a code of conduct, but a real, you know, simplified version, I guess, if you will. That's all for now.
Okay. Chief Morehouse, I asked you to be here tonight, and I thank you for being here. From your point of view, from a safety and fire point of view, is there anything in this bylaw that you like, what you don't like, or any other recommendations to council at this time?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I've just quickly perused through it this afternoon. I agree with some of the things Council is saying. I do understand Nicole's been talking about 2 per bedroom, because that's what the fire code refers to also. So, but I also understand that, you know, these people will have children. They're just moving through for a week or 2 at a time. As far as the fire safety aspect of it, you know, every home's got to have smoke alarms. If they have a hydrocarbon, oil, a propane, or natural gas, they have to have CO alarms. We could probably, you know, I don't want to step ahead of things, but then to ensure that they're there, we would have to do some kind of inspection, and off the top. So I agree with a lot of things going on here. I look forward to working with council, building and bylaw on this moving forward.
Okay, thank you. I think a few things have stuck out to me on short-term rentals. First of all, I'm not here to stop them in South Dundas. There's certainly a big flavor for them to be here. However, there has to be an understanding with those who operate them and those who partake or rent them that they are certainly welcome in South Dundas, but when you come to South Dundas, we expect you to, I don't know, I guess, I wouldn't say live with our rules, but, you know, act accordingly. The comments made by the person who operates a commercial establishment certainly goes against what the Airbnbs and VRBOs are all about, which is, I got this place and I'm going to try to make some money and I don't need to follow rules because there's no rules there. And that's where we have now looking at stepping in. We had complaints from one Airbnb that really got this thing going. I know of another one not too far away from my place that I would say 90% of the people enjoy it and are very good neighbors, but not all of them are. And if we don't have at least a say, and there's not picking on this one, but any of them, and they become a party house, and I think that's where the 2-person per bedroom rule comes in a bit, is if we have nothing, then we're kind of starting in a bad place. I think we're starting ahead of the curve. I don't think the rules, doesn't matter how many pages there are, as long as they're meaningful and responsible and make logical sense to us and those who have to abide by them. Going through it, I know that some of them are challenged by the renters code, but it's no different than you going to a hotel, and as much as you don't read the fine print when you sign their name on that little piece of paper that you say you agree with their terms and conditions, it's the same thing. And it makes people at least aware of what's going on. Yes, it's on the Airbnb site, but I guarantee no one reads it there. It's just like, oh, terms and conditions agree, go. I don't have a problem with having something there. The parking management plan maybe is a little overdone. We'll see. I don't see any issues with parking most of the time, but sometimes if a place has 8 people in it and there's only parking for 2, might cause an issue. The 4-year rule, certainly I agree with council. We can let that go. The rule about occupancy exceeding 2 persons per bedroom, you know, between the building code and the fire code, if we don't leave that in there, allow people to skirt it if they want, that's up to them. But, you know, if we say we can let 4 in there and all of a sudden there's an issue, then it'll come back to us. So keep that in mind when you try to be nice to everyone. Once again, the renter's code's out there, parkage management plan, that's something that we could watch and see if we need to add later. Proof of insurance, I think that's important. Like, why would we not? Like, if we're gonna regulate them, then we all of a sudden become part of that pot that we're gonna sue, so I don't have a problem with that. Property management plan can go out. Extend that 15 days, 30 days is okay. I think that's, Nicole, any comment on the 15 versus 30 days for changes?
There was no specific request. Staff just doubled the time to provide extra.
Okay. As for the fees, because I think that's where I'm going to land up being here in a second. I agree with Councillor Mellon first on the 45 minutes. I think that I'd rather refer the complaint to the owner first before we have to step in and deal with it. If they're an hour and a half away or living in another province, then they're not being very responsible. I'll be honest, I rented a place in PEI and the guy lived in BC. Now, everything went well, but you know, all it takes is one party and away it goes. We can discuss what we're gonna charge. Like, right now, it's $100 per bedroom. If council wants to go flat rate, they're gonna have to come up with a magic number that makes logical sense for that. One other thing I'd like to add to it, and I'm not sure if it's a zoning thing or we can put it in regulations, so listen to this somewhat, that if any of the property used by the STR, short-term rental, is leased, then leased or must be notified to its intended use to approve it. Can that be in the regulations, or should be at zoning? Example is OPG lands. If there's a house on the river, they have OPG leases. Should OPG be notified of the commercial orientation that is now started?
I believe that would be a question for OPG, but typically they like to keep in the loop on what's going on with their properties. We don't have that in the zoning regulations. We would have to add that to the licensing.
But could it be added to the licensing?
Absolutely. It's just a condition that OPG confirm that.
Well, I wouldn't
the
specify OPG. I would just say that if land is rented or leased from another agent, then that agent should be notified. And there was also a discussion in zoning. Part of our zoning bylaw mentions fence. And the reason we put that fence regulation in is to keep good neighbors good neighbors. You have to understand that it's all well and fine for us to say short-term rentals should be here. Imagine if you lived beside one and there's a party there every Saturday night and they disrespect your property. What are you going to do? They're going to come back to us and say, why didn't you fix our mess? So keep that in mind. I know there's one. I know there's one right now that the fence is the problem. So that's why the fence is in there. There was some discussion about how long we should have from when we put the bylaw in till enactment or enforcement, and some were wanting a whole year. I would say, you know, if we put it through soon, then by next season it should be ready to go. Would that be fair? That gives them all winter to get things in line. That was one of the thoughts I had. So we'll go around the table again. I got 3 questions I will ask council specifically, and then we'll for in and out. And those specific ones are, as Councillor Mellon and myself alluded to, the 45-minute rule for an owner to be available to the site. The fee, whether it be per bedroom or simple, and if it's simple, how much? And then the renter's code, in or out. And then you can comment on if the leasers should be notified as you go around. So there's your 4 questions.
45
I think
minutes.
most of the other stuff we've covered for.
Okay. The 45-minute, what if the owner's on vacation? Like, we're basically saying if you own an Airbnb, you can't go on vacation whenever somebody's using the room?
Or you have another person to go to.
So it would be owner or...
As I said, you can have it in or out.
Yeah.
It's your choice.
With the 8, I would take it out for now. I think that's something that you would put in at other times if people are, I don't know, speculating in South Dundas and purchasing properties to do Airbnb. The fee, I agree with the flat fee for sure.
How much?
I think you could potentially average it out maybe based on what the nightly fee is. I think it'd probably be $200 for the year, be the flat fee.
For a license?
Yep.
How much do we do for that? Do we inspect the house? Do we do all the work for it?
Well, this is.
Or do we add that on top yet? We
Um,
shouldn't, but I mean, that's, if Cameron has to send someone through, or he does it himself, or Bylaw needs to go through
Well,
and inspect it, then
and-
there's some expectation
Yeah.
that
And this is
we
my
get paid.
problem with some of the fees, though. The one, where is it? Where it says that.
Some are penalties and some are fees, right?
Yeah,
they're
no,
there.
but I'm talking about where they're following up on a complaint. What if the complaint is found to just be an angry neighbor and there's no justification? Does that mean the property owner still has to pay?
Falsified complaint, and then it's
Then you charge
$75
the
to
other
the
person?
complainant is what's in here.
Well, maybe it should be more like 300 for a false complaint. $75 is worth it to get people riled up. I just don't think people should be doing false complaints, right? There's either an issue or there's not. So
Understood.
literally, it could be $1,000, and the reality is, you pick up the phone, it's going to be a legitimate complaint, not a make problems for everybody complaint. So I would have a look at that. But I think initially with this, we are asking existing businesses to all of a sudden change everything. I think the flat fee should be reasonable. I don't think it should be.
Give me a number.
Well, I say
$200?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for the year.
Might have a discussion on that one, but anyway.
Well, you got to start somewhere. I mean, you can't have if.
Okay,
if
but
I'm-
okay, so example, if
Yeah.
they charge $200 or $300 a night, it's one night and it's paid for. Like it's peanuts, it's chunk change.
Yeah, but Stephen, we're not here to like I don't want to micromanage their business. I just want it.
We
safe.
micromanage, or somebody micromanages motels and other places that people stay, and all of a sudden I compare this to Uber or stuff like that. It's new age economy. It's basically underground economy, how we can get away with it without
Yeah.
doing
And
all the
I
rules and
understand that.
regulations
Yeah.
and save ourselves money and try to make money on the side. So where's the balance, right,
I
between the
understand.
two?
The balance is we only have 8 in South Dundas. That's the balance. If we were sitting here and we had 40, I would be the first person that would say, okay, we obviously are a destination. People are filling the Airbnbs, whatever. We've got somewhat fledgling businesses. I mean, I looked at one, it's a 1-bedroom in Williamsburg, and it's a cozy little whatever. And I think it's $85 a night. They've also filled the gap for accommodation for a very long time, as have the bed and breakfast. So for me, this is a jumping off point. I don't want to micromanage it so it's just such a hassle. It has to be for the safety of the visitors, and you're right, for the nuisance. If I had a Airbnb beside me and it was a party house, and when you said that was one of the thoughts about maybe we can still speak to the number of adults and put children excluded. Can we do that, like in the bedroom thing? Because I think those party houses, the number of adults is important. Because you may have, like some people say, it's a big party weekend, they're sleeping on the floor, they're sleeping on the couch, they're sleeping wherever. So I do believe there has to be something, but we need to speak to the family thing. So I don't know if there's language that can define it.
Nicole, any comments?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why it's based on per person is because windows and doors are calculated on width based on an actual human being. So regardless of whether that's a child or an adult, that child still needs help through a fire by an adult. So that's the reason behind the building code and the fire code. This bylaw, if you want to change that provision, would have to be bylaw specific. It can't speak to the codes.
And I'm only speaking to the bylaw, because I do believe that if we went as a family to a strange house or whatever, guarantee Reagan's probably in the room. Like, it's just, I'm not going to leave her in, some strange house somewhere. And so, I mean, we've broken the rule. There's 3 people. So I think there needs to be some language around that. I'd also like to see that as far as the Airbnbs, when we are inspecting them and stuff, one of the best Airbnbs I went to had all the fire, like the exits marked, where the fire extinguishers extinguisher was, what could be recycled, what couldn't be recycled. Like there was like a whole thing when you talk about guests and that type of thing. If you're talking about abiding by our rules, we don't speak to any of that stuff. So I'll answer the other question too. The renter's code.
Yeah, renter's code, yeah.
I think it's great, but I think it's a
Yes
little
or no?
no.
Okay. What about insurance?
Oh, people need insurance, but again,
They say no because they can't get it, but that's kind of,
but
that almost makes me scared, but anyway.
But see, this is where we're penalizing our people that are doing it here. These are their pride and joy properties. They're not going to want, like 90% of the people in South Dundas that have Airbnbs, this is their
But
house.
they're running,
like they're inviting people
running
into their
a
house.
business. They're running a business. I have to running
Yeah.
a business.
Well, if we put insurance,
Anybody
that
who
they,
runs a business
Yeah.
should have insurance.
but if we put insurance that they can't get, the insurance industry hasn't caught up. So
Understood.
why would you do
I agree
that?
with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Or possibly they just don't want to pay it because it'd be astronomical over their regular house insurance.
Perhaps.
I
But-
imagine it would be. I imagine it won't be cheap.
Yeah, but with that, I mean,
Careful, just don't forget, we make the rules. If the challenge is if we don't say they don't need insurance and something happens,
I think
we
need-
will be sued.
I think we need to check,
Guaranteed.
but I think we need to check on the insurance stuff. Like what are insurance companies doing to deal with the Airbnbs?
Okay? You put the onus on them. They want to run a business. It's
Well,
part
that's
of
my
the
thing.
due diligence.
There's never poor insurance companies if they want, but if the owners are coming back and saying they don't have Airbnb specific insurance, then
I would find that surprising considering how many Airbnbs are out there and there's no insurance for any of them. I would find that surprising.
there's a lot of surprising things. But
Well,
yeah.
true, but I know, but you can't.
But Stephen,
ju-
I'm not trying to be, sorry, Mayor, I'm
Go
not trying
ahead.
to be weak on this, but what I'm
I'm
saying
challenging
is,
you on a lot of things.
You can
That's-
challenge me if you want, but eight. We are micromanaging 8.
It takes
Not
one
40.
fire to say, we wish we had done it right.
I'm okay with the fire thing. I'm actually kind of
But
surprised.
even if they follow the code and everything else happens, we don't say they need insurance, and there's one fire,
Stephen, you can have one person drown. You can have one person hit by a
Understood.
car. You can have one person.
okay, so
You
no
know.
insurance. Go on,
what I
Councilor
said.
Lewis.
That's not what I said.
Pretty close.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask you what the second question was again?
Sorry, I'll go.
Please.
So owner time first,
Yep,
yes?
I got that wrote down.
Yeah, and then the fee, whether it's bedroom or simple,
Yep,
the renter's code, yes or no,
Yeah.
and then insurance, yes or no.
okay. I agree with the 45 minutes. And if you run an Airbnb and if you're going on a vacation, holiday, whatever, you should have a replacement within that 45-minute time zone. I don't think the municipality should be sending somebody out to do the business of the person that owns the Airbnb. Fee, yes. I think, I don't want to disagree with Deputy Mayor Gardner, but I'm going to have to. I think $200 is too small. If Bylaw has to go there, or if the fire chief has to go there, I think they should get paid for their time. So I would kind of raise that up to where it would make sense. And I would most likely put it, and I might be a little out of sort, but I would most likely say that'd be $500.
Okay,
Renter code, I think there should be a code in place for the person renting. And the insurance, most definitely, yes.
anything else?
I'm like you, I can't believe that with all the Airbnbs out there, there's not a $2 million insurance plan. I find that's hard to believe. I think it's just, and I might be thinking wrong, but I think it's just people don't want to pay that extra fee because we all know the $2 million liability fee is pretty pricey. But that's where I stand now.
Okay. Councilor Wells.
So the 4 questions.
And you can add anything more. Like these
Yeah,
are
I
the
got-
ones that we
yeah,
all
that's-
questioned, so I
that's
think we
fine.
need to
So
come to some
The
sort of.
45 minutes, I agree. It doesn't have to be state the owner. I'm sure anyone's gonna run this, like common sense comes into play. I'm going for 3 weeks or stay in my house. I'll call my brother Tom or my sister Kate. She can handle any questions. So that would be, like, have an alternate number. The fee, I agree with Councilor Lewis, $500 fee, just because that fee, if you want to call it a short-term rental, which we are, you can take short-term businesses too, that like chip huts that are only open 4 or 5 months a year. And there's something there that the fire chief has to go to every year. It's got to be inspected. So I believe they're up around 500, aren't they, or close, somewhere there, give or take?
They're $550 per year.
So I say for 500, that's a good fee for if someone wants to do this. For the language as far as people, how many, I think we could state in there that is 2 adults and 2 children. You can put an age of 10 and under or whatever, but if it's in the bylaw that there's 2 and 2, because worst case scenario, if there's a fire and I have my grandson somewhere, I sooner have him in a bed beside me where I could grab him and go out through the window instead of going to another room to try to find him or something. So I think 2 adults, 2 children. Insurance, no, I don't agree with that. I own lots of businesses and stuff like that. It's not for us. If they want to have these short-term rentals, it's up to them to disclose it to their insurance company. And I'm sure whether most places now standard is a $2 million liability. Does it reflect back to whether it's short-term rentals? I don't think so. Whether a person's staying overnight or you have your family staying in a spare room overnight, the insurance company, if something happens, your liability insurance kicks in. I don't believe it has to be a special insurance. I could be wrong. But I would put the onus on the people that are applying for the license. The renters, I'm kind of leaning no on that, for that, because it's not, you call it short term. I don't think we have to get all that in there for just if someone's staying a couple days or a week or whatever, and so I would have to say no on that. I did have something else in my mind, and it just went blank. Oh,
We can come back.
it might come back. So that's it for me now, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Mellon, 4 questions. I know the answer to number 1.
Yeah, I'd bring that down to 30 minutes, but 45,
45 is what that's suggested by staff, so it's kind of that compromise. It's there now. 45, if staff's comfortable with 45, then I think we could be comfortable as council with 45.
I can live with the 45. I think we need to put a little more bite in there, that if there's more than one complaint, for the first complaint, if there's a fine, a set fine, if they fail to respond in that 45 minutes to 250. If they, if we have a repeat offender, time and time again, I think, I'd like to see it revoke the license. Simple as that. Like, if we got repeat offenders, we keep fining them $250. So I would set the fine to $250 for the first one, maybe the second one. I don't even know about the second one. That will really, tighten things up. That if somebody's going to get their license revoked. The fee, I would go with, like, the inspections that will have to be done will be included in the fee. Any additional inspections that we may, need it is at $75 per inspection, so I could live with the $400 for a license, $400 for the license. And then, any addition, which would include the initial inspection, if they didn't do things right the first time, then it'd be a $75 per hour per inspection to get everything up to snuff. The renter's code, I guess, I don't know. I'd like to see a lot, a real Reader's Digest version, but I don't think we need a big, long thing, but, when you're renting anything out, there's always that fine print there that whether it's a hotel or whatever, that nobody reads, but it's there. Maybe a renter's code posted. I don't know, I'm sort of iffy on that one. I'm sitting on the fence, that's not a lot of good to you.
No,
The
it's
insurance,
not.
the first round around, I said if they didn't need the insurance. I'm sitting here thinking, we're gonna charge a fee and a license for this. So I gotta change my mind a little bit, Mayor Bylaws, and agree with you that if we're charging a fee for something and there's something happens and there's a fire and somebody comes back and the homeowner does not have adequate insurance, they may have some kind of insurance. But if there's a person involved, a death, bodily injury, and they have inadequate insurance, we're going to be on the hook. Simple as that. So since we're charging a fee, you're absolutely right, Mayor, we'll be sued. They'll be coming back on us and saying, why didn't you require insurance? Because you licensed it. And if we're going to license it, if we're going to regulate it, if we just want to, throw it open and have it, Wild West and have no license, fine and dandy, I don't care if you have insurance or not. But if we're going to license it, I think we need to require some type of insurance. Just to make sure that we're not being sued because we did collect the fee and license it. The family, I'm, 2 adults, 2 children, certain age group, like under 10 or 12, I don't know where you'd be comfortable with a child staying in another room. The 6 months as far as, getting it in, in the existing Airbnbs and, give them that 6 months to be in line. Yeah. And like I say, I would add that penalty in on the 30 minutes to make sure that, fail to respond within 45 minutes, 250 with first time offense. I would go so far as to revoke the license if there's well, maybe that's a little extreme, maybe 500 for the second offense and revoke the license if there's a third offense for repeat offenders.
So my comment is this, Councilor Mellon, that, going back to Deputy Gardner's, we only have 8 right now. We don't want to sound like we're heavy-handed to start, so I'm good with what we've got and then learn lessons along the way. And if all of a sudden our staff come back and say, we've got big issues, we need to fix this so we can deal with repeat offenders, I think that's a potential that's always there from our point of view. But, it's always balance, right, between what we do. I understand where you're coming from, but we don't really have a bad history with STRs right now, except for one that in theory may not be as bad as it sounds. I do believe that since we started talking about regulating them, that things have quieted down there. I haven't heard anything. Has any golf course road been fairly non-eventful for us?
We haven't received any complaints since that.
So all it took is a little bit of threat, but we still need to follow up with the threat, because if you don't follow up, then all of a sudden you don't look like you're really wanting to deal with headaches. So I
I
want
get-
an answer on the renter's code, though. You're not gonna get away with that one. You make a decision, yes or no.
You know, if we, $250 fine, maybe, each time, it's something to track if we're gonna have one location, and like you mentioned, if you've got situations and your next door neighbor has got a, flaunting the bylaws and the license and it's causing issues, $250 fine, if they're charging enough, they can eat that $250 fine, or they're not responding to it or making sure that that isn't happening, but maybe, that's something that can be addressed, if we have repeat
Okay.
chronic
Yeah.
violators.
Yeah. Renter's code,
Yeah.
yes or no? You're not gonna sit on the fence. The renter's code, yes or no? I'm not gonna let you sit on the fence, because that's,
It was so comfortable up here.
I know that. I just cranked it up a little.
No, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Councilor Wells, did that memory come back?
Yeah, it was, what was it? Oh, going to the complaint, like charge and stuff like that. I think if, it's almost like a false alarm, if something happens and we have to go out and it was nothing, I think we should throw in like one free complaint. And actually I had it written right there, one free complaint. So that's it for that. I already said no to the renter code, right? I just want to make sure, yeah, I did.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Anything further here? I can give you the results of the code. So council, the owner time, 45 minutes, that's a yes, that we're leaving that in. Consent, well, vote. Fee, Councilor Mellon threw a monkey wrench into it, but I believe $500 is the right fee, and that's 3 of us that have the right fee at $500. The renter's code is a no. The insurance is a yes, because I will make the yes on it. The other concern council had was the 2+2. If that can work, then that would be something that we would entertain. Anything further?
No. Well,
Yes, go ahead. We're
I've
trying to
listened to what
debate it.
everyone says, but again, bylaws are not written in stone.
They
and
can
I-
always come, staff can always
and
come back,
that's
and
what I'm-
council can
and
always
that's
change
what I'm
them.
saying. So now we have a new bylaw that we put in place. No, we had no fee before, correct?
It was Wild West, yeah,
Yeah,
right?
okay. So now we've got a $500 fee. So
Yeah.
if one person rents out one bedroom in Little Williamsburg, then they're hit with a $500 fee.
You
And
wanted a flat fee, you could have
where-
went one
where can you-
bedroom.
Where can you stay in Williamsburg right now?
Well, yeah, okay, so I'm gonna be,
I'm
well, you
just
could stay,
saying-
you could stay in the back of Lloyd's office,
Okay.
maybe. He's
But
gonna run
I'm
one
just-
too.
No, but if we're talking about not harming the communities, we're doing this because of one complaint, fair enough, but they're not all apples, it's apples and oranges. So you've got a massive property on the waterfront with lots of bedrooms and whatever, and then you've got somebody who, if I wanted to stay in Williamsburg, where am I staying? Because if I'm renting a place one night, I think it's one person. It's not even two people. It's one person. And I don't know the person I'm talking about. I just looked it up on Airbnb. If I wanted to stay in South Dundas, what I would get.
Yeah.
And the average for the non-commercial type sites is about $100 a night. So 5 nights, fair enough. But if you're just starting out or you're doing it whatever, or you travel a lot and all of a sudden you can't be away for more than whatever, and you're the type of person that wants to be there when the guests are there to protect your own personal property, then you might only be able to do it 2 months out of the year. So why would you bother? For
Okay,
8 properties.
so your expression, Deputy Mayor, suggests that we should go to what was suggested by staff, which was so
By
much
the room?
per bedroom.
No?
So you can look at it this way, your Williamsburg site is whatever, what did we say per bedroom? $100.
Okay.
The golf course site, which I don't know how many bedrooms, but I'm gonna speculate 5 or 6, would be $600.
I
Which
think
makes it somewhat more fair
Yeah.
to your situation.
Well,
And I don't disagree with that logic at
if
all.
we need the owners to be there or within 45 minutes, then it should be by bedroom. Because then the people can't rent by the house, right? So it's a flat fee, then I would suggest that we definitely go by the bedroom.
Okay,
Up until a max amount.
okay, so right now the suggested is $100. You good with that? That's
Yeah.
suggested.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Council Lewis, we'll go bedroom or flat fee?
Flat fee.
Okay,
Flat fee, like $500, if you want to, you call it what you want, short term, 1 bedroom, 6 bed, you're starting a business, so you know what, like, there's cost to business, so $500 is not a lot to ask. Whether it's a 1 bedroom, if you want to get into it, like same with the chip up, is you got to pay $550 to be open for 4 months. Like, it's just, you gotta, and what are you gonna do? Okay, someone puts on their thing, 3 bedrooms, and they got 5. So do we have to send someone to look every time? Okay, let's go and check to make sure the municipality's not getting ripped off for $200 or $100 or whatever. This flat fee is the way to go. Like, most of everything we do in the municipality is an annual fee. Like, whether we rent out a campsite lot or whatever, it's a flat fee. So I think it's saved the staff a lot of headaches. There's what it costs you if you want to be in the STR business, and go from there.
Council Mellon?
Flat.
Okay, majority council says flat fee, Deputy Mayor, so
It's fine.
we had a good debate. Brought up good points, but that's where they want to go. Anything else? Anything else from staff? Any other questions, comments, concerns at this time?
If I could just clarify the ESA requirement, it's just a proof that you had an electrical permit within that time frame. Just so if there's new construction happened, it's visible, you just have to provide proof that you had that permit. You don't
Yeah,
have to get
which
a new
is-
inspection.
Okay, but it doesn't, just the way it reads in there, like, as far as new construction, yeah, it's gonna be there if,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have a copy of it, or
Yeah.
their contractor's gonna have a copy of
Yeah.
it, so, no, I'm good with that, Nicole.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing further.
Anything from you, Cameron?
No, not at this time, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Anything further from any members of council? Okay. Had a good discussion. I don't think we're here to shut them down, but I think we need to make sure that they're operating fairly and within the South Dundas and being good neighbors. I think that's the key to this whole thing, and safe. The safety aspect is big, because if we say nothing, we can rent any kind of place, and who knows what kind of fire trap it is in the end. Okay, then we'll move on to property standards. Nicole?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as council is aware, our current property standards bylaws are from the 70s and 80s, and they're just applicable for the village of, the villages Iroquois and Morrisburg. What is being proposed is a draft property standards bylaw for the entire municipality of South Dundas. We did have a committee of the whole on November 18th, 2020, and discussed that draft. At that time, council requested that the draft bylaw be divided up into specific sections, so commercial properties are separated from residential properties and such. Those modifications have been made in this new draft, and they're up for discussion at this time.
Okay, so just to clarify, the Ontario regs that you have in here is basically what you based it on, but not what we're following, right? What's it there? Is that just for your challenges with landlord tenants, or can you
Yeah,
explain
so-
that a bit? Because it just sits there on its own and,
So the section for tenants itself specifically relates back to the Landlord-Tenant Board Act, and as it's amended, our bylaw will amend with that. So that specific portion for tenants uses the provincial legislation.
Okay.
Everything else is governed in South Dundas by residential, commercial, whatever council feels would be the property standards.
Okay, yeah, that's true, because we unfortunately are now the enforcement arm for the province on landlord and tenant issues and maintenance standards. That used to be theirs, and they decided in their great wisdom to give it to us. And, oh, did they send us a check with that? No, I knew that. You didn't have to answer that. Which is, you know, it's just more work for our staff and nothing back. Okay, so then we're going into what is the proposed new bylaw with a nice table of contents and everything else. So, Council Wells, go at her, please.
Honestly, I don't really have a lot. I went through it. I think it's good. I've said this before. If we, when we do this bylaw and we go down this road, that when we start enforcing this, it doesn't stop with Tom on one street and Harry on the next street. It keeps going to where there's a lot of issues in this. I wouldn't say a lot of issues, but there's issues where before people's been told to clean up, and other people's just been left alone, which I don't want to see. Everything else in here, like I said, nothing really stuck out. The only thing, and I said this at the committee of the whole meeting, was about when it starts with staff to, if they get a complaint, and instead of going, like, send staff, bring the pictures, and basically bring it right back to council to start with, because there's, as you know, we've reversed some fines and stuff, where it's better for us just to bring the stuff to us, at the end of the day, it's going to be our decision anyways, so I think it'll save a lot of problems with staff and council. If it's just brought to us, then we can go, like we did in one couple of situations, go and look at it, and then, well, there's talk about having a committee here too, so.
That committee could be council, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
no
well,
different than a committee of adjustment. We let someone else do it, but technically, we could do it.
We could be the committee, yeah.
That's right.
I knew,
There's
yeah.
pros and cons to that.
Yep. What else was there? The one in there about if a work order or something about $10,000 that staff can go ahead and do it. If there's any more to come back, I think any amount should actually go through whether it's council or the committee prior to actually just say, okay, Nicole calls Cameron, well, we need a hi-ho to go and do this. It's going to be roughly $5,000-6,000. I think it should actually come back to the committee or the council, whatever we decide. And that way it's just, I think it's just, it's better that way, especially in a situation like this. It's not, I just think that's what I would like to see. And I'll wait to hear from the rest of council what they think. But other than that, Mayor, I didn't really have, I didn't see too much in there. Like, I know it's unfortunate that the province handed the Landlord and Tenant Act down to us, because that is a lot of work. Like, we had an issue over here in Morrisburg there with thing, I don't know if it was ever resolved, but it's just a lot. I would like to say disregard the landlord and tenant thing, but property standards, for my belief, is the outside. I don't care if they got pathways going through their house, but as far as outside, that would be my concern. Instead of having the interior, but the interior relates to, you gotta have it safe for people too, but it's a fine line there, so. That'll be it for me now, Mayor, till I go around the table.
Okay, so Councilor Mellon, and you can take Councilor Wells' suggestions and say
Yeah,
yes or no, and
I gotta agree with, I think, some of what Councilor Wells has already spoken to. The outside, as far as the building code issues and the tenant issues, I think that we should try and separate that if we can. To me, this property standard is basically the outside appearance of a person's house or yard, whatever. And this is, what the complaints we get from, neighbors and whatnot, and it's always a judgment call, and it's a judgment call by the staff when they go in. So personally, I think, if there's a complaint come in, staff go out, they look at it. If it's worthwhile, if it's not, a legit complaint, or, they can determine, well, this isn't, something we need to go any farther with. But if it is, they take the pictures, they come back to us with a report. They can go to the to the owner and say, we've had a complaint, I'm gonna be taking, and bring it back and let us, show us the pictures, a short report, staff, counselors can, run around and look at the places if they want before, and, we can decide at the, on an in-camera, before a council meeting. It shouldn't take, 10 hours to decide whether, yes, this property needs to be cleaned up, or no, it doesn't need to be cleaned up, because it's all in the interpretation. One person might feel that, oh, my property isn't that bad, when the neighbor who might think, oh, it's a terrible run down, hole. And that's always, and I've always said that, that's always been the problem, and I agree with Councillor Wells that, we need to continue this on. We just can't, pick and choose, because there's tons of properties out there that never get complained on, and it's, it's a complaint-driven process, and it probably will remain that way. But when we have complaints, we have to make sure that we follow up and the property is cleaned up to what we think is acceptable standards. And then when we determine with staff at a meeting, if we want to make ourselves a committee, which I think we should, we specify exactly what we want cleaned up. Get rid of the cars, the tires, the junk, whatever, and give them a reasonable amount of time, 30 days or whatever, we all think that is a reasonable amount of time to get the place cleaned up, and make sure they're notified that. And if they don't clean it up, then yes, whether we go with an informal warning first and give them a shorter period of time, say a week or two, but it means staff time, and that's where we're going to get into the issue, where staff are going to have to go back numerous times. But I think, the idea is this, is get the properties cleaned up so everything, is looking, appealing. There was one item in here, for fire damage, there's a 30-day, and I don't even know where that is in this report now, Mayor. But like we gave, I think it was 30 days to clean up after a fire.
5.33.
Which one, sorry?
5.33 on page 66.
So I think we should, I don't know if 30 days is going to be realistically enough, because if there's, the insurance is going to have to get involved, and if there's a, investigation by the fire marshal or whatever, I'm just not sure if 30 days is maybe really an adequate amount of time. I think the place has to be fenced off to make it safe for the public and whatnot around a fire, but I'm not sure if 30 days is really enough to, have a place cleaned up. It still could be an investigation in, as far as that goes out within 30 days. So, what else is there? Yeah, other than that, I think I'm sort of good with it. I just think we need to, if we can, separate, the outside property standards and make ourselves a council, the committee. It takes the pressure off, if you will, or staff have to make that judgment call and say, well, yeah, that property needs to be cleaned up, agreeing. So that's sort of where I would go with that too. So what, like, I think what Councillor Wells had, alluded to. So that's all for now.
Okay, either Cameron or Nicole on the 30 days for fire damaged.
30 days is to protect the public. So for instance, there was a fire in Williamsburg. The property remained unsafe for more than 30 days, close to 6 months. And the front facade almost fell onto the sidewalk.
And I can appreciate that, and that's why I say, I have no problem with enforcing and, making it safe, if you will, by putting a fence around it. I don't think 6 months that's an unreasonable amount of time, but I'm just wondering if 30 days is enough time. Maybe it should be lengthened out a little bit, but with required fencing around it to protect the public, or if there's a wall going to fall on a sidewalk, that is pushed in, or whatever. But if there's an insurance issue or a fire code issue, fire marshal investigation or something like that, I don't know how long all of that takes. It could take more than 30 days, I'm guessing. In a perfect world, it wouldn't, but
Okay, we'll dwell on that. I'll come back to you, Councilor Wells, and we'll go to the other side. Councilor Lewis, please.
I think, Nicole, pictures are like 1,000 words to me. If I'm sitting here and you have a cleanup order on somebody and you present pictures, I like to see that because as you know, all of council, they went and checked out another resident and blah, blah, blah. So I would like to see more pictures. As far as the fire damage, the cleanup of the building, if it's, if it has something to do with an insurance hold up here or there, yes, but if not, then I think 30 days is a lengthy enough time to get it cleaned up and get it to the dump or wherever you're going with it. Myself, I'm thinking the same way as my colleagues across the way. I think we should concentrate more on the outside and then on the inside. Because if you drive out around the countryside, and not only the countryside, but in town, there are some places in pretty rough shape on the outside of on their property. But other than that, I think this is a good bylaw. And it's somewhere that we can start, but overall I think it's real good, and I don't really see that much to complain about. I think it's good. Thank you.
The Mayor?
I agree actually with what's been said. I think that I think our residents will always should always have the opportunity to use council as a vessel if they feel that this is unfair. I would change the 30 days to 60 days. I just think the way insurance and stuff is, I think that 30 days seems like a short time span, especially if somebody's lost their house and all the other stuff with it. I am going to ask a question about the going into a property without a warrant. I know that's under the building code, but some of the stuff I just whenever I researched a little bit, they said that a municipality may allow that, or is that under the building code? Because I don't really trust what it says on the internet. So
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is per the Building Code Act.
okay. Just wanna make sure.
Any provincial offenses officer can enter upon the lands with reasonable grounds. Can only go up to the front door. If it's a dwelling, the dwelling inhabitant can refuse entry at any time. If it's not a dwelling, like it's commercial property, they would be hindering an investigation and they could be charged.
Okay, let me just see where that says. Sorry, Mayor, I just gotta
It's
find
okay.
I know it's near the end. Yeah, so it's got mentions the Building Code Act, Where's the part about the warrant? I'm not trying to hinder anyone's job. It's more if the council determines stuff. But I think you've answered the question, Nicole. I can't find it where it says, it doesn't go into your explanation. It just says without a warrant.
Are you looking for enforcement?
Yeah, I'm on 6.2.
60s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
6.2.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 6.5 is the right to enter and inspect.
Okay.
Sentence 1 includes without a warrant.
Yeah, so it's got to enter upon any property without a warrant for the purpose of inspecting the property to determine. So it's not defined like you just gave the explanation. So I'm just wondering, like you're saying with, they can go up to the door, right? Mm-hmm. If it's not a commercial establishment and it's a residential establishment, they can't enter without a warrant. But that, I don't know, I just find that part kind of, people get a little bit upset whenever they're talking about their civil rights. I just think that maybe should be defined, or.
652 is notwithstanding, so you can't, an officer shall not enter or remain in a room or place actually use the dwelling without requesting or obtaining consent of the
Okay.
occupier. So that kind of, they
Clears
don't
it
want you
up.
there, correct? Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we do, Kaylin and I worked on a brochure to explain what it's included in the agenda, to explain to homeowners what their rights are.
Okay.
That also is included for police. Same thing, they can't enter a dwelling without permission. It's for any provincial offenses.
So it's just got what are my rights as a property owner? Where in the handout? I'm missing it, Nicole,
At the back
obviously, no
end,
more.
right at the back.
No, I'm on the
Sorry.
handout. I'm just
Oh,
wondering
sorry,
where
one
it
second.
speaks. Is it's got what's included in the property standards, and you do have all your interior stuff, right?
We do have a more detailed one that includes that information.
Okay.
We just didn't have time to include it in this
Okay.
agenda.
So that's kind of, because you've got, what are my rights as a property owner?
Yeah.
And it just says the right to appeal. It doesn't say the right to,
Fair enough.
that's the only thing I was worried about.
Okay. That's it?
Yep.
Okay, Councilor Wells?
I just want to add the one comment about the 30 days about, I don't think 30 days is enough. And in regards to, I talked to the homeowner, Nicole, about the one back in Williamsburg, which was really insurance, hold up. I do agree that it should be in there, like fenced right away or something for safety that way. I'll give you an example. The municipality paid for, and I don't know if we ever get paid back yet, for over at Becker's, where we end up cleaning that up, didn't we? We foot the bill to
No.
Becker's over here on 5th Street.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not sure.
Didn't we paid for that?
no, insurance paid all that.
But I mean initially.
I believe Fast Studies did the work. I'm not sure who.
I think it was just added to the property taxes, I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but it went through us
Yes,
first.
correct,
We
correct.
approved it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you take that, then, so the municipality's been reimbursed for what we put out, okay, that's fine. But you're gonna have situations like that. And the 30 days, as far as I'm concerned, Nicole, we could leave that there, and it would be up to the discretion of whoever go out, okay, after 30 days, if you need an extension, you have to explain why, as long as the area is fenced. Say a letter from the insurance company, say, no, we need to inspect this yet, then it wouldn't have to come back to council, it'd just go through the discussion of staff, through you or whoever else the CBO is, and do it from that. So, because sometimes at the beginning, you say within 30 days, well, the owners just don't have the money to do it. So, like, you can't get blood from a stone, so it's, if they don't have the money to do it, what do they, so that's what it comes down to. Leave the 30 days in there, but with exceptions that staff can make up their own mind on it, what to do with it, that it wouldn't really have to come back to us.
Go ahead, Nicole, comments on that, because
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the 30 days is to ensure that the damaged site itself is contained. So we would ask him to put the fence up within those 30 days, but nothing further. So the house wouldn't have to be demolished within 30 days, it's just protection from the public. And that goes for all properties, even if it's on a construction site, there is a limitation on fencing it in to maintain safety for public.
Okay. Okay, good enough then, I'm good.
yeah, I think there's always a concern, you don't want fire damaged buildings to be there forever, and it kind of reminds me of a site in the city of Ottawa. It was an old video store
Oh, yeah. On
on
Bank.
Bank Street
Yeah.
between Sunnyside and I can't remember the street down there, and I've walked by it many times going to hockey games, and I think it was well over 10 years. and they
Jumbo
finally-
video.
Yeah, I don't know, it's well over
Yeah.
10 years,
Probably.
and they still haven't got it. I hear rumblings that there's talk of it
Yeah.
getting fixed up, but, we don't want those kind of sites anywhere in your municipality either, so, they have to have some sort of end date to work with. I guess my recollection of our discussion when we had our lawyers, our legal counsel here at the last one, we had to have something that was fairly airtight and had some legal teeth to it. This does it. I have two fears. My one fear is that we're going to have to hire a whole new building bylaw department just to handle what could happen here. Because it could potentially be very busy. Could be nuisance complaints, maybe just somebody being a little fuss farty, and some of them will be legit. I understand the council wants to deal with some of the more visual issues that are out there. Your challenge is that one person's visual is not the same as another, and that could cause problems. And I know that we as a council can be the property standards committee if we form, and the bylaw will ask us to form that, which means become judge and jury on some of these issues. So it could be busy. It may settle down, but it could be busy. There's a lot more stuff in here than what we've had in the past to enforce what we want to enforce. Look, I don't see anything in here I'm gonna pull out. I think 30-day suggestion is certainly something that has to be kept in mind, and I agree with the rest of council that if something has to come, I don't want I want the onus on staff to be reasonable, but if they feel they need to come to the property standards committee or council, then I think that option should be certainly top of mind, and that way we can, after a while, we'll figure out what's right and what's wrong. Councilor Wells.
Yeah, just one more comment, Mayor, about when I said when we opened this can of worms, what I meant we all can drive around, any one of us drive and pick 100 places right now that doesn't come close. But what I meant to say, like, only on the complaints. Like, I'm not gonna go and say, okay, we gotta clean up so-and-so and have staff go there and say, no, I want it clean because the municipality has this bylaw. Mine would be, if we have a complaint, and it's a complaint, they come in, make a complaint, then we do it. Not for us to go around and it's like having the building department go around and say if we see there's a building going up that doesn't have a building permit, is that up to me or someone's to come back, run back, so, well, this guy don't have a building permit? I don't think so. If someone wants to try to break the law, you know what, I'm trying to.
I wouldn't use the Building Code Act
Well, okay,
as something to compare,
okay,
because we
okay,
can't
well,
move that one.
No.
This is something we can move. If someone
Okay.
came to us and said, I don't like it, and the council as
So
majority says, we'll let you go, that's our decision. We
Yeah,
can't,
okay, put
we
things in-
will not put the CBO on that. If someone is not,
No, okay, maybe, yeah.
I'll leave that up to them when they do
Disregard-
their
dis-
drive-abouts.
Disregard that. So just put things in perspective about this property standard. If someone complains, then we'll step in, that we're not out, us or staff going around and say, well, this guy, we're gonna go in and serve him something. I don't want that. If there's a complaint on it, then where this comes into play. We're not going out there to be judge, jury, and executioner and just start picking people. That's what I meant to say.
I don't think there's any intent of that. I don't think staff's looking for work. I'm just saying from my point of view that there are residents out there that are very particular about their own property and have that expectation for everybody else, especially their neighbors, and sometimes, well, we've had that discussion already.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not gonna say any names or places, but we all went by one that the neighbor thought they weren't up, their other neighbor wasn't up to their standards, and their standards are pretty high. I'll give them credit for that, but
Yeah.
I don't want to compete with my neighbor as long as I'm reasonable.
Yeah.
And that's how council decide to determine in the end. But we still have to, staff needs to follow up complaints, and if we get a lot of complaints, it may be a lot of work. We'll see how it goes, and then we can always, this is, I think, a tricky
It's a
one, because I
start,
don't
and
think we
it's-
can massage it as easy. This has got some legal teeth to it, and am I
Yeah.
right, Nicole? That's what we need as a municipality, that's what we've been told by legal counsel, for us to go and, well, we're just gonna disregard all that. Well, that's easier said than done, because somebody's gonna, there's always an appeal, right? Somebody can take us, well, council decided wrong, I'm going higher up, because you guys made that, why didn't you enforce it?
No, and I agree. This is very, very good as far as I'm concerned. I just saying, like, I got ahead of myself when I said when we're going to keep going. I didn't mean like for literally keep going and start picking people.
No.
That's all I was trying to get. So we're good. We're good to go.
Okay,
I'm happy.
Nicole, you can, if I said wrong, you tell me, but I don't think you're gonna be sending staff out to go look for trouble, because I think we have enough on the plate already.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Municipality of South Dundas has a policy where everything that comes in for bylaw complaints has to be documented. We can't do a proactive approach, which suggests we go out, notice one, and just send an order. So
Okay.
where building is different
I better stop
is
driving
a
around
safety concern, but we definitely have that policy. Maybe we could look at updating it. I'm not sure what the date on that policy is, but it is complaint driven. And just to speak to Councillor Mullen's concern about the informal process, so if council isn't aware, bylaw starts out with a complaint paper. People submit their complaints. We go out, do an on-site investigation, try and contact the owner, and there's quite an informal process before orders actually go out. So we try to give them time to complete the work before an order's out. Because once the order's out, that's when the $200 goes out. And we try not to issue that $200 if we don't have to. It's only when they're being difficult and they don't want to complete the work, because we do want to see properties in South Dundas cleaned up. The staff that we've had in South Dundas have been pretty reasonable, I think. And it definitely is up to council if they want to waive fees. That's part of the fees and charges bylaw. But there is an informal process with our formal process, just so council is aware.
Good to go.
Okay. Anything further, Councilor Miller?
No, as long as, and I see what you're saying, Nicole, as long as there's an informal, process that would we approach them, so we don't come in, looking heavy-handed, we gotta do this, and work with, like I said, the end goal here is to get the properties cleaned up. And, we're not out there, it's all complaint driven, it always will be. And I think, the fact that, if it gets to the point that it's not being cleaned up, then I think it should come to the committee, council if you will, and they will determine, and at that point, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, our decision is final. And we, sort of go through the process we're using now, but if it gets to the point that nobody wants to clean anything up and we're not getting progress. The other thing I would maybe put in here too is if we have have complaints that are directed at a property and repeat complaints, and that's already been determined that that's within reason, the property standards are within reason, and we're still getting complaints. It's taking staff's time because they have to respond to it every time. That individual maybe be notified and maybe even a set fine so that we're not getting the same complaints. I don't think we're into that point now. Whether that's really necessary or not, but so the staff are not going to be called out on a weekly basis, and I don't think we are being called out on a weekly basis to one or two.
No,
Probably
I
sometimes.
think there are properties that you can be called out on a weekly basis in South Dundas, and you don't have to go too far to see it.
No. So, once council makes the decision, the final decision comes down. If if somebody keeps complaining about it because they don't like that decision, then I don't know, should we have something in there, a mechanism in there to say to the complainer, say, look, it's been decided, the property is at the, it's the same, it's a done deal. If you keep complaining and staff, just charge them back staff's time, whatever, on an hourly basis. That's just the thought,
Well, I think in the end, Councillor Mellon, that if there's a property that has a complaint, a legitimate complaint, and it continues to occur, then the onus becomes on what I would consider a property standards committee or council, as council is desired right now, to back staff on enforcing it according to what's in here.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Literally, and there's going to be some places where staff will have to have some backup to do what we want to do, but there are times when council isn't as forceful as you're pretending to be. So, there is one property that we can, without mentioning names, that you and I both know that have been ignored forever and for reasons that we will not discuss. So I don't think it's staff's fault.
No, I'm not saying staff's fault.
So they'll have the tool where they basically throw it on our table, say, we have a complaint and it's legitimate and it's a reoccurring complaint. What does property standards committee would like to do with it? This is our recommendation, that we move in and clean it up and charge it. Then the onus becomes on us to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Right now, we expect staff to do that, but it's not easy.
What
Easy.
I'm trying to say is that if we get repeat complaints about a property that we've already said has been cleaned up and is done, and we don't
Well,
need
fair, yeah, on those.
those ones.
The nuisance one.
That's what I'm saying.
But then in the end, I think that come back to us and we can say, this property is now to our standards and we're good, and we'll write it on a piece of paper and, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Staff would go to the complaint and said it's already been through the property standards committee and meets the standard of the bylaw, according
That's
to the
what I'm trying to
committee.
get across, I guess, if you will. Very poorly, obviously. And in the other ones, you're right. We need to, we need to back staff up, and, there are gonna be those ones that will be trying and has been trying for, 11 years longer.
Long as you and I have been on council, how's that?
And they'll probably continue to be.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Councilor Lewis, anything further?
Nope.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I was gonna pull it up, I closed it too soon. So Nicole, in your professional opinion, does this bylaw, those problem sites that we get emailed on every couple of days, you know the one I'm talking about, will this help do something in that case? Because I think if our residents are watching this, it's fine to have a bylaw, it's fine to have a lot of legalese and all that fun stuff, but will this help solve the problem?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe most of the issues are with the landlord-tenant board. If we enact a property standards bylaw that has this much back to it, it will aid those owners in evicting issued tenants.
Because, I mean, that's what we're really talking about. I mean, the residents that are watching this are sitting there going, oh, great, I'm going to have them come knock on my door because my grass is 5 inches instead of whatever. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about protecting people, especially in landlord-tenant situations. It could be one where somebody's rented a place and they're an absolute nightmare, and they're destroying and the rest of the area's impact. So you're saying this will have the teeth, and then the other could be the residents that rent and their landlord won't fix things. This will solve this problem as well, and that's the reasoning behind the internal elements of this bylaw, so we can go in and if the roof is leaking or whatever, they have to clean it, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. I would suggest that council leave the internal aspects in. Otherwise, we have to go in and investigate under the building code for unsafe buildings, and that's when it becomes a litigation issue and actual prosecution.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more time and money involved,
Yeah.
especially to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And this actually protects both landowners and tenants as much as possible, especially with how the landlord-tenant board has been going. They are mostly in favor for tenants,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Because that's my thing. I mean, it is, for lack of a better word, could be a scary document where you're worried, but the reality is the big problems that we've had have to have a document like that to back it up, and our residents will always have the recourse of being able to, you know, initiate a conversation with council. So I think that's important, and that's one of the reasons why I'm pleased that it's got some teeth so we can move on with some of those properties.
I don't disagree. I think, you know, I'm going to suggest to council we leave it the way it is for the most part. They've heard our concerns about some of the timing, and see how it goes. It's, but I also like if we enact this bylaw and people come to us with complaints, then I strongly suggest that it has to go through the proper department to be filed so it does land up back on our lap. Because if we try to fix it, then we become something that we're not. And we as a committee, a property standards committee, is somewhat, yes, we're council, but we're not council, but it's got to start there. And if we can agree, or, well, I'm going to caution you never agree. You say, okay, I hear your concerns. I suggest you file a complaint with the building departments or bylaw, and then the whole process can get started. And then in the end, we can make that decision.
Can that not be crystal clear in the handout? They're creating the document
Yeah,
at the
well,
bottom, right?
that'll be part of that
What the
communication
steps are?
standard, right?
Yeah, what the steps
Yeah,
are.
but it's also to us.
Oh, yeah.
Because we tend to be we get the complaint possibly first, and then if we're gonna enact a way of dealing with the complaints in a logical and fair way, then we must follow that ourselves too. And, it might be not the answer the person wants to hear, but it is the right answer because it's the only way we can make this whole thing work.
We've had a lot of residents, or not a lot, but one I'm very familiar with, where they've done the right process, and it's just like, let's make something happen.
Yeah,
kind of
and
thing.
hopefully this can
Yeah.
alleviate
So
some
that-
of those concerns. I understand that, not everything we can do it works, but some's easier said than done,
Yeah, it's true.
no doubt about it. Okay, anything further? Anything further from you, Nicole?
Nothing further.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Since there's nothing else on the agenda, I'd like to thank council for their work this evening. It's a couple, complicated and challenging bylaws, but I think we went through them in a fair manner. I'd like to thank staff for their input, you know, on these two bylaws, and I'd like to thank the audience for watching our council in action tonight. Madam Clerk, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that council now adjourn to meet again at the call of the chair.
All are in motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you very much, have a good evening.